Report live for the 21st of July. And of course, Worldwide News Blog expert analyst Tim Alexander's here, history professor. And of course, we're looking at this from the process, just like we did with Harley in the first hour. We're looking at the process of geopolitical engineering and the principles behind the idea that Christian or biblically based, if you want to call it, geopolitical analysis is the only way to clearly see the real events of good and evil around our world as to what's going on. Tim, I'm sure you have lots of burning news that's happening right now as we march.
Yeah, I do. Several things I think concern me.
Right.
I just hit the publish button on my blog here. Just put a couple things up. And I have more to add. The former senior American general in NATO, Wesley Clark, who was twice a candidate for president, or for the Democratic nomination for president, is a key supporter of Hillary Clinton.
Right.
He has come out with the most outrageous statement that I think any American general has ever made in our history. He has called for the detention of people who oppose American policies in the so-called war on terror, indefinite detention in internment camps. That's another word for a gulag or a...
Which general is this now? What's his name again?
Wesley Clark.
How long ago is this now?
Within the last day or two.
Yeah. So, does he realize that could be...
He's advocated stepped-up surveillance of U.S. communities, preemptive detention of persons suspected of ideological or political opposition to U.S. government policies. And he did this openly on national television, on MSNBC. I'm sorry, this was last Friday, so it was about 4 days or 5 days.
Does he really understand that this qualifies him to be in the, as I say, the satanic masses that are given over to destruction by the Most High God when judgment comes? Does he realize that it's anti-American to make a statement like that against American citizens?
Well, the man graduated from the U.S. Military Academy. He spent 4 years there and spent probably close to 30 years serving as a military officer. Did he not learn anything of the U.S. Constitution or our philosophy of life, our culture, our history in this country? I mean, this is right out of the communist gulag system, and let me give this general and anybody who thinks that they're going to impose kind of a martial law system here. And I also want to make a mention of those people who try to scare the public. I don't want to scare the public. I want to empower them. If in any way, shape, or form, Wesley Clark or any other member of this or any other state or other government tries to bring in foreign troops or have American troops turn on American citizenry, I can tell you, having lived in what I call Marine Town, I live in Vista, California, and we're between San Marcos and Oceanside, and I can literally, as I'm sitting in my studio, I can see Pendleton Marine Corps Base literally out my window, okay? Out my window, out my patio door. I can tell you there's not one Marine that I've met in the 7 years I've been here that would not, without any doubt whatsoever, stand up for the American citizenry against the state or federal government. There's no way they can impose these. This is a wet dream of people that are psychotic. Well, here's another aspect to it, though. U.S. Senator Rand Paul, next month in August, is planning on introducing legislation to declare a state of war against ISIS.
Well, that's kind of difficult because that's like your right arm declaring war against your left arm, because we, Britain and Israel and their various affiliates, are actually creating and amplifying and arming and supporting ISIS.
Yeah, there's just a new article today where we've been paradropping arms to ISIS. I mean, there are very serious people in positions of power and influence in this country that literally want to enslave us, and I'm talking about the Russian Soviet communist gulag system. I'm talking about the German Nazi concentration camps. They want to do that because we in the alternative media are getting the message out. People are beginning to wake up, and they're beginning to get very concerned.
Well, that's why they want to shut us down, but it's not going to happen.
Damn few of them.
What's going to happen is we are already working on creating a fully encrypted peer-to-peer network. And I've talked to our Carrot Bars guy, Pete Reddick, and we're going to get the senior people in Germany that have developed Carrot Bars to actually set up an encrypted bartering system based on the Carrot Bar fractional gold currency. So we'll have a fully encrypted network that neither the FBI, CDC, British Security Intelligence, MI5, MI6, whatever, can break. And an unbreakable code, unbreakable communication means it's the end of their New World Order, because really there's two pillars to it, is control of communication and media and control of currency. When those two are gone, they no longer have power. The fact is, we need to disconnect ourselves from what I call the umbilical cord of this evil system, and we need to stop turning on the TV and watching the garbage, and stop listening to the radio, and start checking out the facts. And don't freak out. Don't think, oh, well, they can impose this. They're saying they're doing Jade Helm. Jade Helm is what's called terror porn. It's to try to tell you that it's to market to themselves and to market to the public that somehow they could impose this. It's a wet dream of satanic globalists. They can't do any of this. The most they can do is to shut down the internet temporarily, and it won't last long, 6 months. They can shut down the freeways. They can put some guys with black ski masks and body armor on at the bank door. They can shut down ATMs, but guess what? When they do that, the public that are willingly and purposely ignorant will turn on them like a viper. And they can imagine the violence in every way, legally, physically, and other way.
You saw a hint of that when they tried this lying false flag a couple years ago, right before Christmas. They said a kindergarten class was wiped out by a lone gunman. He went in, shot everything up. Well, you know, it's come out, and I mean, it's verified, and it's the truth. That school wasn't a school. They had asbestos contamination. It had been closed for 2 years. Nobody was killed there. It was all scam, and it was an attempt by these jerks to get to steamroll Americans into supporting the confiscation of guns, and it worked just the opposite. Because everybody went out and bought guns and bought ammunition, and like I said before, I couldn't even buy a 12-gauge shot, or couldn't buy shotgun shells.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
They don't think like us, thank God. And
well, Tim, I'm going to quote a philosopher named Schopenhauer, and he said, "It's the most distressing thing is not that you lied to me, is that anything that you say to me in the future I cannot believe."
Yeah. I have I think we're about to go on commercial in a second, but I've got a great quote from Netanyahu in Fink's Bar in Washington. The Defense Intelligence Agency bugged him, and this was back in 1990. Let me. It's just a quick quote here. Quote: "If we get caught, they will just replace us with persons of the same cloth. So it does not matter what you do. America is a golden calf, and we will suck it dry, chop it up, and sell it off piece by piece until there is nothing left but the world's biggest welfare state that we will create and control. Why? Because it is the will of God, and America is big enough to take the hit. So we can do it again and again and again. This is what we do to countries that we hate. We destroy them very slowly and make them suffer for refusing to be our slaves." End quote. That was Bibi Netanyahu, our great ally, the jerk that gets in front of the American Congress and they jump up and down and give him about 20 standing ovations.
Yeah, isn't that awful? That's why I've renamed it It's a Real Hell instead of Israel. Well, Tim, let's continue on this analysis. We had a really good talk about the operation of the British Empire and how it's caused a lot of the havoc over the last number of centuries. And, in fact, how the Queen visited
the British Empire The British Empire was devised by the Rothschilds and headed by them in their City of London operation. And the reason the British Empire existed and grew was to give the global banking cartel families a base in which to expand globally. And they used the British Empire as their enforcement arm for many years until the First World War, and then the Second World War just literally broke the back of Britain. And who got to replace them? America. That's why we have military bases in over 800 military bases abroad. That's why we're involved in who knows how many wars right now. And we've spent $3 to $6 trillion just in Afghanistan, which was a toilet before we went there and is a toilet now, will always be a toilet. I'm cleaning that up a little bit, and so forth. We're their puppets, okay, and we're allowing it, and we need to claw back, because these characters want World War III, they want a slave state, they want most of us dead and those that are alive to be their slaves. We don't have to put up with this crap.
Yeah, and the fact is, though, we have alternative media, and even if they shut us down tomorrow, it would even prove to what they've just done some surveys. They found that 1/3 of Americans, over 105 million, don't trust the government at all. And then there's a large segment of those who try to feign ignorance, but really, if push comes to shove and things get crazy meaning no six-pack of beer, no movies, no groceries, and no gas.
Yeah, well, that's when things get real crazy.
And it won't take days or weeks. It'll take hours. So the government, in their wet dream like this Wesley Clark and Obama, which is bringing in 127,000 Muslim students with visas into America, and 325,000 Muslims immigrated here from so-called distressed Muslim countries, and tons of so-called illegals being given free housing, free food, food stamps, and everything at the cost of the middle class.
Don't we have over 100 million Americans without jobs?
Right, but the fact is that Obama's here to deconstruct America. He's here to make us a post-colonial nation. He hates America. If you look at his behavior, not what he said, the man is satanic. He is here to deconstruct America. And the fools who just look at him as he's a half-black man, no. This man, wouldn't matter what color his skin is, he's here to destroy us. He hates America. He hates the idea of a sovereign Christian nation. He hates a nation that's strong in the face where globalist bankers want to get rid of all nations.
And you know, as we were talking during the commercial, there's so much that is shoved out by the propaganda efforts literally daily. And I survey newspapers and mainstream as well as alternative media from all over the world, hours a day. And, I mean, it's just amazing some of this stuff about ISIS. Now they're saying that ISIS is teaching little kids how to behead people. And there was this photo that, this little bitty kid beheading some guy. And all this is to shock people and say, oh, my God, now they're using children to behead. We've got to stop these so-and-sos. It's designed to get people to want war, to buy into the lies, and all they're doing is creating news copy that they're feeding the propaganda machine. There's 6 corporations that control 96% of all mainstream news media in America, and similar percentages around the world. By the way, there's a new story out, scientific journals. Now, it's not the same 6 companies, but there are only 6 companies that control the overwhelming majority of all scientific and academic publishing.
And academic medical, yeah, that's true. By the way, you just invented something new in my mind. You remember they say BTW, by the way? How about BTL, buy the lies?
Well, people are beginning to wake up, and I don't particularly like Donald Trump, but I'll tell you what, he's outside of the box, and he's not even all that much outside of the box, but he's enough outside of the box that he literally has them scared. Well, I can't say that word on air, but it has them scared silly, let's put it that way. Trump has attacked McCain because McCain attacked him. And, the people are now attacking Trump, saying, well, McCain was a war hero. Well, interesting thing. All McCain's fellow POWs from the time he was there, they hate him. They hate him with a passion because they think he was a traitor. And there were, this is a story that just came out today, Garden Duff. It's headlined, Trump opens McCain's treasonous can of worms. I want to read just a couple paragraphs from it. Over the weekend, the Donald backed down on his attacks on McCain, calling Hanoi John a war hero. However, Donald is not going to be able to close the can of worms he created. Today, McCain is trying to wrap himself in the POW flag for cover, etc., etc. American POWs from Vietnam with a bloody flag Richard Nixon wrapped himself in on the advice of Henry Kissinger, part of a ploy to divert attention from his endless personal failings, which included his agreement with North Vietnam that let them keep and later execute hundreds of American POWs. 1,250 American POWs were kept by North Vietnam, according to records recovered in the Cold War. Are we? Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're still on, yeah.
Okay, President Clinton and Yeltsin instituted a search of Russia's gulags looking for the remains with no success. In 1993, armed with testimony from a former high-ranking Czech security official, I proposed, this is Garden Duff, a systematic search of archives in Prague that recorded the fate of 200 missing POWs from Vietnam, but was blocked by Senator John McCain. 33 POWs faced execution for treason after Vietnam until Nixon pardoned all POWs. McCain was on the list of 33. In fact, he was at the head of the list. Now, McCain's father was a four-star admiral, and his grandfather was a four-star admiral, and he was protected. In fact, he almost sank his own aircraft carrier with a hot start, and only that kind of pull kept him from being kicked out of the Navy. Now, here are the facts as we know them. According to Colonel Ted Guy, John McCain's commander as a POW, McCain collaborated with the enemy. McCain is accused of keeping information that led to the downing of 60 U.S. aircraft. Jane Fonda only stood by an anti-aircraft battery. He was responsible for the downing of 60 U.S. aircraft. McCain is accused of training North Vietnamese air defense personnel. McCain is accused of making over 30 propaganda broadcasting against the U.S. broadcasts he moved to have classified when he was elected to the Senate.
Yeah.
McCain is dirty, and because he's dirty, they've kept him in, and they put him in the Senate and kept him there. Why? Because they've got the goods on it, just like most of these jokers in Congress.
Exactly. Wow. Exactly. Well, actually, I think his name actually has been changed by Dr. Deagle to Mick Insane. And Tim, let's talk about some of these things. We have. People need to see the roots of the pedophilia that's going on in Britain. What it is, and I'll give some specifics on this. Pedophilia, all high-level Masons are all bisexual. All. Even if they're not naturally bisexual, they go through bisexual rituals to make sure they're compromised. So, for example, when they go to the crypt at Yale University and they get sworn in by Skull and Bones, they all do ceremonies that are basically homosexual, bisexual ceremonies. They have to be stripped down and actually tell their sexual fantasies while inside a coffin, and they have to swear some satanic oaths to the goddess of Nu, which is a goddess of destruction, that they would know that they will be physically destroyed, so why not live like Satan? In other words, with your power here on earth and in the realms of earth, okay? They swear this oath to the goddess of Nu inside the crypt. So people need to understand, when we see high levels of pedophilia, on a spiritual level what's going on is that if you go to 1535, the book called Demonology by James Weir, which is a compilation of ancient books and translations on demonology, that's in the British Library, by the way. What you'll find out is that the highest level of the warrior demons are all bisexual and incubi. So all high-level masonry is all basically gay, if you want to call it. The word gay is not really appropriate, but let's say bisexual. So that's the reason for it. It's a satanic ritual. It's a sex magic ritual, which gives the, if you want to call it the ritual sacrifice to their astral god, which is none other than Lucifer or Satan, the light bearer, which even the Vatican now is admitting last year in a ceremony in Vatican City, that they worship Satan and they call literally Jesus as Satan's son. I mean, people need to start grasping this, that the Pope we have right now this is not a kind of a wavering, is the last one. He's the anti-Pope.
Certainly according to the prophecies of St. Malachi is. If you know the Catholic Church as I do, and I've had 2.5 years of graduate theology, if you know the Catholic Church from the inside like I do, you know that about 60% of the priests are gay. Right. We've had nothing but excuses for decades now, from this Pope, that Pope, this Pope, and now the latest Pope, why we can't clean up the mess. Oh, we're trying. Oh, we're so sorry. And yet they maintain the 800-year rule of mandatory celibacy for priests and bishops. A rule, 800-year-old rule in a 2,000-year-old institution. We know, for instance, that many of the apostles, including Simon Peter, the first pope, was married, etc., etc. Now, if you don't attack that problem, that horrific thing, the molesting of little children, which to me is almost as bad as murdering someone, because it affects that innocent life for the rest of their life. If you don't attack that, all the rest is BS. Because
I'll make a statement that of someone who's a pedophile hunter that I talked to and had on the show a number of years ago. Pedophilia is the means by which homosexual people reproduce.
Well, my late wife was one of the nicest human beings that I've ever known. She was absolutely great, and I believe that she is in heaven. But she made a statement one time. She said, this pedophilia, where often the kids that were, when they were children, were abused, sometimes become pedophiles. And she said, it's kind of like vampirism. And she said, what do you do to a vampire? You drive a stake through his heart. Right. And for her, that was a very, very strong statement. But now, the reason we got on this is the breaking news in London is this pedophilia thing is really blowing up, including not only people in the House of Lords, by the way, life peers, not hereditary peers, but people in Parliament, and it's coming out more and more that at a very high level, Prime Minister level, and senior cabinet level, that they knew about certain congressmen molesting children. They knew that there were rings going on. Usually it was little boys. Sometimes it was little girls. Some of the children were killed. We're talking about a level of evil that it just gives you goosebumps. It's like, oh my God, how could they do this? And the fact that at the high level, many of the politicians were covering this up. And that's how we got the analogy to the Catholic Church that so much has gone on. When you see this, then that institution is under attack from within by demonic forces. And from my experience in dealing with members of all the major parties in the United Kingdom, particularly in the House of Commons, I'll tell you, after you talk to some of them, you feel like you need or exchange emails or letters, you feel like you need to take a shower. Because, and I would say as evil and as corrupt as our Congress is, the Brits are maybe a little worse in some ways, and I think the reason is the upper class send their kids to these same-sex boarding schools, and often the younger ones are molested by a few of the older ones, and you get more sickos in your society, and it's just
That's because Masonry rules Britain. People don't understand the history of the Magna Carta. The Magna Carta, which was drawn up between the lords or bails of the land and the king at the time, and it wasn't for the common people. They were considered mansters or monsters. So what people have to understand is that high-level masonry runs Britain and has always run Britain. And it goes right back to the Druidic legends of the apostate Aaronic priests that ran the northern tribes of Israel that were apostately brought away by the Medo-Persian Empire and ended up in Britain. So that's the history of it. That's why the Book of the Kells in Ireland and the and in Edinburgh Castle, the actual sticks that are written in ancient Aramaic script are there, because we're dealing with apostate Aaronic priests that are basically Druids, high-level, we call pagan Masons, that are ruling Britain still today under these other, covers of the royalty.
Well, look, the city of London, as it's called, is basically the global financial headquarters for the Rothschild Empire, and
right.
They're at the apex of these 30 families that control the world.
Let me give you a layout of the structure of control. You got Lucifer, Satan. Then you have what's called the Druidic Council of Earth that run the planet Earth. And the Vatican is one of those 12 seats of the council. Okay? People need to understand this is how the world works. The Council of Druids runs planet Earth. It always has been a world government under Satan, and it's going to be abolished soon when Jesus returns. That's what's really going on. And high-level masonry is all basically ancient pagan Druidism, sex magic rituals, human sacrifice. It's all just refurbished ancient paganism of Canaanite and the Medo-Persian area. It's the same stuff. People have to understand it hasn't changed. Some of the names have changed, but they're just reinventions. For example, Libertas, which is the Statue of Liberty, is just Diana. It's an ancient pagan goddess of fertility. It's the same goddess.
Yeah, what's the goddess on top of the Capitol building?
Same thing.
Yeah,
Diana.
Yeah.
Why do you think that they use the name Diana in the British royalty? They're referring to Diana, the fertility goddess. That's why they have Ishtar.
Well,
Easter.
She was killed. I have no doubt.
Well, she was killed. She was a
about
nice
that.
person. I'm not about the person. I'm talking about the institution. Just like Britain itself is not bad people, but the British Empire has done bad things to the world.
Well, that's because they were the enforcement arm of the global banking cartel.
Exactly.
And the United
In fact,
States is now the enforcement arm of the global banking cartel.
They're the golem.
My Lord, look at all the stuff since 9/11 that we have had, and then we've elected a president that openly, nobody knows who his real dad was. There's different speculation. His birth certificates were all forged.
He's a Photoshop guy.
He got into some schools as a foreign citizen.
We're on break now.
Almost certainly.
For 5 years, you've been hearing about the...
What we've got to do is we've got to kind of draw out and not only look at what's on the surface, but the process underneath it. And the spiritual thing, it says in Ephesians, we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers and spiritual wickedness in high places. When we have retired Army General Mike Flynn talking about the fact that ISIS was created by us, that's why I've renamed it, and I like to use it, I call it Deagleism. Terrorists are us, just like the company called Toys R Us.
Yeah.
When we have ridiculous statements made by Obama, that, how sad he is about Chattanooga with Muslims, what the heck is he doing? Bringing 127,000 Muslim students here. We want Sharia law, and they did their own reports, which are not necessarily scientific, but over 51% of Muslims in America, and these are supposedly called moderates, many of them can be doctors, lawyers, professors, whatever, they want Sharia law. That's not compatible with being in America.
You know that I've known a number of Muslims, Arab and some Iranians, and I've known a number of Christian Arabs from various places in the Middle East.
Right.
And there is a world of difference between them.
Oh, absolutely. Listen, people need to understand this. Walid Shabat, who's been on the program with his son Theodore, he used to be a Palestinian terrorist, and he became a Christian when he married an American, and his son is American. And he wrote, and he's been on this program a number of times, but he said 86% of Islam, all Islam, not just moderate, extreme, whatever, is just a geopolitical system parading as a religion. The fact is, it's a geopolitical cancer that's parading as a religion, and it's infiltrating Europe now. And because of political correctness, people won't call a spade a spade. The people in these countries know what's going on. You got no-go zones in France where you can't go to certain districts or certain places, or the local police will say, well, we can't protect you because we're not there. The fact is, the fact is, and this is what people need to get my ancestors were Qumranite Christians who were originally the Hebrews. Like my ancestor was a Kohen Gadol at the time of Jesus in the Sanhedrin, and was a friend of Joseph of Arimathea. And they became the Maronite Christian generals. In the 11th century, my ancestor was the chief general that fought against the Muslims in the Shuf mountains around Beirut, and personally killed hundreds of them with his own sword. So I'm going to tell you right now out there, people, the only thing we can deal with Islam is to crush it. We should deport anybody in this country that's Muslim, and if they want to declare at their mosque or personally that they're going to integrate with society and not ever have Sharia law, that's fine, but we should have officers sitting there in every single mosque and every meeting, and any statement made whatsoever against the U.S. Constitution or the government, they immediately need to be shut down and deported or imprisoned. We need to start trying to be more realistic about this instead of the stupid Europeans. And maybe now that they're in extremis, they got 7.5 million Muslims, and now with the economic chaos in Europe, it's going to cause a massive surge of people from Turkey who want to get full membership of the European Union.
This is all by design, Dr. Bill.
Well, of course it is. But
Obama is letting in 100 or so thousand.
He's a closet Muslim.
Young Muslims that are the right age to cause trouble. That's by design.
Of course it is. Obama is
all these Muslim Arabs into Europe.
Let Christian Arabs come in here. Hey, how about why don't we let all the Christian Arabs come in here, and all the Christians from Africa and everything? It doesn't matter what color skin they are.
Some of them have, actually.
Like for example, in the southern Sudan.
They're being persecuted over there.
Right, like the southern Sudan, all the blacks.
Let me give you an example. Yeah. In Sweden. Now, when I think of Sweden, I knew a couple Swedish blondes in college, and wow, were they were hot. Anyway, you think of blonde-headed Vikings and beautiful blonde, blue-eyed women and so forth. But in Sweden, they have a real problem because they have all these Arab Muslims that want to do their weird law and all their weird stuff and want to wear veils and all this stuff. In Sweden, and, well, it's part of the EU. They have to let them in. And now EU court, by the way, has ruled against Italy because Italy alone among the EU nations does not authorize gay marriage, the same-sex marriage. And so, the court system is now saying, well, Italy is
Tim,
I mean, this is
now the Supreme
is crammed down everybody's throat. When
it's not correctness,
they're trying to kill you by doing that.
Right. Well, look at these 7 of the 9 judges are Jesuit trained in the Supreme Court here in America. What's to stop them a year from now? Someone saying, "Hey, we want polygamous marriages. We want marriages not only between humans, but humans and maybe robots 10 years' time, or genetically upgraded animals that have human DNA, a percentage of the human DNA to make them look human-like." I mean, do they have any restraint and idea where this is all going?
Well, there's a lot of people saying, you should have pedophilia. You should have.
Well, I know that those organizations are already going to become
3 wives, 4 wives, 10 husbands, what other? And this is all a spiritual battle. This is destroying everything, which is
what Christians need to do, and this is something that we talk about with the carrot bars and with our Nutrimeds: disconnect from the medical system, disconnect from the financial system, disconnect from the regular media, listen only to our media, which is Genesis Network and the good shows like our show. Make sure that you become aware of what's really going on. Start disconnecting. I tell people disconnect and recreate.
I don't watch television, Dr. Bill. I have 2 DVs, and actually one's going out in the trash pretty soon. The other I'm keeping. I don't know why, but I disconnected my cable. I found out I hadn't watched it for a year. Basically, it's trash.
Right. Well, you know what? They should put an FBI warning. This product could produce a drop in IQ of 1 point per hour of watching garbage news. Okay?
If I took a course in college many years ago, and it was about the film industry and how to psychoanalyze what they were doing. And if you look at a television show analytically, and people don't think analytically, most people don't, unfortunately, you will see that you are being manipulated almost from the get-go for every half-hour show in all kind of different ways to get you to accept certain things and certain belief systems. And if you don't believe me, just start studying what they're telling you, what they're doing in these TV shows, and why and where the cat.
Well, we also say it's also part of our thing, like our licensure authorities. For example, Arizona cardiologist Dr. Jack Wolfson spoke out against the dangers of vaccines contrived in Disneyland, and because of that, the vaccine industry managed and had trolls that filed PR complaints and total of 38 complaints against Dr. Jack Wolfson in the Arizona State Medical Board. Now, I know what that's like with the Colorado Medical Board, which are a bunch of criminals. Okay, and I'll defend and make the statement of specific names on this air if somebody wants to challenge me. Because one of the things that comes up periodically is they say, well, you did this and that, and you did this and that with the Colorado Board. I was shutting down industry. I was doing IMEs on cases where surgeons had completely screwed people up or killed them, and I was going to court over it after I do independent medical evaluations, people out there. So I have a titanium alloy backbone and a big damn mouse, and I don't have a reverse gear.
I'm glad you do, because I know a lot of doctors, and most of the doctors I know are pretty good, but I have run into some murderers, and I mean, really, murder is a proper way.
Actually, if you have an MD, you're 11 times more likely to be a serial killer. That's an actual statistical fact from forensic investigators. It's not just in America, it's worldwide. If you have an MD or DO and you're a doctor or a nurse working, say, in ICU or whatever, you're 11 times on average more likely to be a serial killer.
Well, for one thing, any job where you have power, and power of life and death is
ultimate power. But a lot of doctors are medical bullies, they call it. They basically think that they are the provider of your care. They're the manager. No. I tell people, you, the patient, you're the manager. You just need to be properly informed, because you're not a lump of flesh to be sawed like in a bandsaw. You are your healthcare provider, not your primary doctor, not your specialist.
A good friend of mine, and he has plenty of money, but he's very tight. His son's a physician, his nephew's a physician, his brother's a physician, his wife's master's in nursing, was a nursing and a professor. Anyway, he went, he's 72, but he does jumping jacks and all kind of exercise. I said, you idiot, you don't do jumping jacks when you're 72. So he was having some trouble with his knee, and he went to an orthopedic surgeon. Now, the orthopedic surgeon, yes, we need to do this. But David said, it's getting better. Maybe I should just wait up. Oh, no, it's going to be worse. Well, he had surgery, and now he's in constant pain. And I told him, you idiot, don't you know the saying in orthopedic surgery, you may not need the first surgery, but you will need the second and third.
That's a good one. That's a good one. I've taken extra training in orthopedics and plastics. I can tell you that you have to understand that when doctors go on strike, the rate of death drops. Whether it's in Israel or America or Britain, the rate of death drops when doctors go on strike. Yeah. So there are some very appropriate things that doctors do, some very good surgery, and I really applaud it, but there's a lot of stupid and dangerous things that are inappropriate that are pushed on the public because we have medical bullies, medical deities that act like